Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers episode, this one for patch 13.15, and what might seem like a smaller patch from the outside actually has some strong ramifications for the order of the meta and which junglers are actually showing up to be pretty damn good to climb. They hard nerfed our ability to smite Daisy and Tibbers and then buffed them as well, so that's interesting. Giovanna was nerfed after I put her on the last tier list and everyone said, why would you do that? Well look, there you go, she was actually pretty good. We're going to go over all of these changes for low MMR, high MMR, and obviously the best junglers overall. And the best way to stay on top of the new builds is to use the Mobalytics 2.0 build feature. It's faster, it's more accurate, and while most sites just assess the items individually, Mobalytics now assesses them as part of a build, so it's way more accurate and reflective of how good they are. You can't just show a third item and say, look at the win rate, when you have no idea what the first two items were. All of this updated and pushed live to the companion app where you can put it directly into your client, along with all of the pre-game tips, post-game tips, as well as in-game tips such as itemization notification, level spike awareness, tips on how to play your champion, how to counter the enemy team composition. So if you want to dominate on the best junglers in the best way with all of the best information and keep up to date with all of the new itemization changes as the meta develops, click the link in the description below to download Mobalytics today. First up here on the S tier page is still going to be Kindred, but with a bit more of a normalized win rate. Not that Giga Z tier or Z tier or OP tier, whatever tier you want to put above, as they are now simply atop the pile of everybody else. Definitely able to be beaten now by certain champions that have a bit more of an understanding of what Kindred does. And obviously as we all get acclimated to putting those wards down for invades and understanding exactly what Kindred wants to do, we can choose when to interact with them and obviously when to avoid them. Now, overall, the nerfs have shown that damage reduction, impacting the amount of DPS that can be thrown out in certain windows, and obviously, even if you're overkilling someone, say 150%, if you bring that down to like 110%, 100%, it does allow reaction time, it does allow you to escape situations you might not have, and so that does contribute to the win rate downfall. However, still strong, still smurfable, and if you're good at the champion and good at jungle, there is no reason why you're below Master Plus. Kha'Zix, on the other hand, has gone, wait a second, you nerfed Maokai? I'm free, because he's now free and his win rate is going up and his play rate is going up, and statistically has a good time against Kindred. I'll leave that to your skillfulness. But even though he's gone down the tier lists in recent months after being really strong in the Ghostblade patch, it wasn't because the champion was inherently weak. It wasn't because the champion all of a sudden lacked the ability to 1v9 jungle. It was just a matchup concern, yes? Certain champions were just better with Ghostblade, better in the systemic meta, and were able to also counter him at the same time and stop him from accomplishing his assassin goals. Now though, with those champions being nerfed, you have Ivern being nerfed, which is great for assassins, you have Maokai being nerfed and Sejuani being nerfed, which is great for assassins. And while Rengar is still a great pick, he is definitely struggling after the item nerfs and obviously direct nerfs to him, even though one tricks and mains will have no issue. The bugs matchups have suddenly become less difficult, and all of a sudden, here his win rate is back at the top. Next up we have Graves, absolutely broken, strong Giga champion at the moment. That's what most people are saying. That's what most high elo players are saying. And I reckon you'd find people hard pressed to disagree. Even if you are, say, playing him in low elo, which I don't recommend because the champion is kind of difficult, but if you can apply the champion properly, you will have no issue. Mechanics, jungle flow, counter jungling, tempo control, no stopping, no hesitation. It really is a champion that rewards those junglers with a quick sense of in-game decision making. And while we always talk about burst combos and difficult combos, understanding basic practical combos is more important for your day-to-day on a champion. More of that coming in the video on Saturday. And while there is a popularity contest going on between Duskblade and Ghostblade, I always love just to recommend the standard Ghostblade. Use the movement speed buff. The item spike with Serrated Dog is absolutely giga. You don't have to worry about kiting and sitting still with your auto attack based gameplay. Go for burst, go for snowball, go for invades, go for W's. Next up we have Rek'Sai, and yes, she has been nerfed as well, and the nerfs didn't really seem to do much. But then you look at the play rate. The perceived nerfs have been bigger, so her win rate has stayed the same, but the play rate has gone way down. This means her win rate is a bit in flux in comparison to other champions here, which have a much higher play rate. At the same time, she does very well into Kindreds, into Kha'Zixes, into Rengars, and is generally just an amazing, I can do whatever I want jungler at the moment. We can all say that the mini rework was a profound success, taking a champion that was always really atop the meta, but went down to a 1% pick rate, struggling to find a flow last season, into, again, another top tier choice. If you're looking for the good old fashioned red side quadrant into spam ganking meta for your duo or for whoever's your hyper carry, this is the champion to go. Because then you can just become a predatorial menace, invading the enemy jungler, killing them on all their stuff, and you really can take the pressure off your laners. And when you're really fed, map control becomes the order of the day as your laners take over, and if they don't, hey, you're still a 1v9 assassin on those who are squishy, because guess what? Bruisers are still kinda assassin-like when they have a big lead. Go Rek'Sai, you won't regret it. Next up we have obviously Evelyn, and she's just been such in a great spot this season. But the reason she's never at the top is there's always something that's just either good into her or does more things in her. And a lot of that is, yes, split push, pressure, and tower hitting. However, as annoying as Rek'Sai can be for Evelynn, she's way more interested in playing her own game, and I think that's the best way to go about it. Optimize whichever full clear you have, and guess what? You can still do a red side quadrant gank on her. Not really recommended, but you do have hard CC. You might have lanes that shove up or half HP. Don't be afraid to cut in and get your claws a little bit dirty. We all know she would enjoy that. But it's really this idea of question mark pressure that I feel like a lot of Evelynn lanes don't really fully utilize. Which is weird because once you're 6 and you camo, you have the threat of where is she, what's she doing next, where's she using her ultimate, and it's the same kind of pressure that you have from Shaco at level 3. Except a lot of Evelynns just don't get onto the map aggressively. You have to use that ult as much as you can when it's on cooldown. Obviously don't waste it on stupid things, that's not what I'm saying, but looking for those opportunities. So basically once you hit 6, you're using it as soon as possible, especially while bottom laners are still level 5. So while you don't have the classical concept of pressure, you can still apply it while playing your own game and being in a position to 1v9. And speaking on that, we have the Shadow Assassin, we have the Rost. I'm slapping Kayn back up into the S tier page, not because that one guy was trying to be delusional about Kayn, because you can definitely beat him, but because his versatility and obviously nerfs to things like Ivern and Maokai do help players that use these kind of champions. At the same time, even though people do get a little bit down on what Kayn can accomplish, I've always stood by him as a great champion to learn a lot about the game. Yes, there's rule breaking, we acknowledge that. But there are also a lot of great fundamentals in terms of assessing team comps, knowing how to build assassin, knowing how to build bruiser, tanky, hybrid, and learning the thresholds of so many different aspects of one particular hero. And I use hero intentionally there because Rost or the Shadow Assassin are always the hero of the game when they get fed and carry. So it's all on you, much like it's all on you with Jarvan, but at the same time not in the same way. You know what I mean? You're looking for that early pressure, definitely more of a Rek'Sai analog here, but something that scales much better for team fights. A Jarvan can have a really bad early game, but have a really good goon squad roaming mid game, and then become a dominating teamfighter and assassinator later. That's what makes him kind of frustrating to play against for a lot of junglers. There's always that versatility of he has an out. He has a way to get out of a bad game, a bad situation with his itemization, his decision making, and his kit. However, he also feels relatively beatable. You don't really go into a game against Jarvan and go, oh no, I'm doomed. You just look at it and go, I hope that isn't a Gurren. Much like with Hecarim, you say, well, I hope that isn't Lemon, the top tier Korean challenger player since season 6 using only this champion. Because when you have Hecarim doing that, you're a little bit concerned about your health, because that guy is someone that will really go for those free camp gangs versus blindly AFK farming if he sees an opportunity or a vision gap that he can actually exploit. But mostly putting Hecarim back here because honestly, the champion when built correctly and played correctly around the assassin archetype is an absolute monster. That being said, Lemon does always go a bit more conservative and still does the most damage. You know why? Because he focuses less on burst, more on DPS, and he is seeing and tracking much more accurately, so he's much more active on the map. He always has that high kill participation, which is what most Hecarim should have, but they don't. So think deeply about how you're playing the champion, how you need to position in teamfights and skirmishes as either the assassin or the fighter build. I guarantee if you look at how many ganks and cleanups you missed just because you weren't looking, or how many fights you threw because you just didn't play it according to your build, you would immediately gain at least plus 10 wins. And to start the A tier page off, we have the one thing that can truly counter Kha'Zix in a very visceral way, the effigy monster Fiddlesticks. I enjoy looking at these sorts of Fiddlesticks scenarios, especially in the open coaching class we have weekly in my private Discord, links for that below, because he always finds himself in these really great unique situations because he's such a great unique champion, and many champions just don't really think about him. They go about their own gameplay and go, oh, I'm against a Fiddlestick, he's gonna farm, and they ignore him. The Fiddlesticks is able to use all these other jungling principles together to track and, cut you off, and all of a sudden he's just hitting one great ult and you're like, wait, what happened? And then you go back and watch the replay, he was doing a lot of little things over the course of the game to get to that point. It rewards consistency, dedication, and obviously yelling at the top of your throat lungs. Rengar here again, as I said earlier, not in the spiciest spot, definitely struggling to keep up that same control he was earlier in the season and even last patch. Just an accumulation of the direct nerfs, the itemization nerfs, and the meta changes. But at the same time, if you're one trick your main, you're not really thinking about this. You never were, you never will. You just think about Catwoman and destroy the map every single game. Next here we have Nocturne, and again, I'm not going to apologize, I'm just putting the champion here. He doesn't have the best data, he's not the most sexy pick, but he's such a reliable, the good old reliable Nocturne. Building his Strikebreaker Black Cleaver, building Assassin, I wouldn't do that, but you can. He just has such a great balance of decent dueling, decent farming, amazing level 6, decent split push, decent team fighting. He's just good at so many things. He's not amazing at anything, but he's good at everything. And what this allows him to do is just have a lot of control no matter what the game state requires. And this rewards junglers who understand his thresholds, his cooldowns, and how much he can actually dish and take. And it's quite unassuming, but really a great carry jungler. Now for Karthus, you have to understand that this is definitely more of a high elo pick. At the same time, I really rate him highly for general diamond players. If you can master the Fiddlestick style, but also understand the Rengar style, but also understand the Kindred style, you got a champion that kind of hits all of these things. An amazing ult, super fast clear optimized, can invade with exhaust and kill you, can then just sequence a few times and press R, and all of a sudden, because you didn't punish him because he's so much quicker than you, the guy's ahead of you, beats you 1v1, and is a monster teamfighter. Really a power pick, you know, especially because they directly buffed him last patch for some reason, but hey, they did. Next we have Bel'Veth, again, not the best data, but definitely showing a bit of life when it comes to her build versatility. Yes, everyone was freaking out when they, you know, changed Kraken and took it away from us. Now we have sort of Rageblade tech, we have Jackshow tech, we have Radiant Virtue tech. We've got a lot of different orders and optimizations we can use. That being said, and I covered this in a macro session this week as well in the Discord, she's such an amazing champion for rewarding that aggressive, invading, suppressive style, and then just gives you super split push macro late game if your teammates are dodos or your teammates need you to get resets. You pick, you choose, you apply, it's all within your control, and I think that's something that many junglers enjoy when they play Bel'Veth. Again, Echo doesn't have the best data, I'm just going with picks here that I know are strong, not looking at the data explicitly. Obviously, I always look at the data, but at the same time, we know Echo is good, we know what he can do. It's just about understanding what the meta is doing and how you can play around it. 3-quadrant, gank, or counter gank on the table. A fast full clear into potential double scutter with maybe a gank mixed in on the table. He is an assassin. He doesn't have the same snowballing component as others on this list in terms of like a serrated Dirk and stuff. But when he does get ahead, he's very, very difficult to contain. And in a meta when you've got big Kaisers running around, don't you want to be the guy that can just kill her and R her passive damage if necessary? That's what I thought. Diana just received those buffs last patch, and you know, we weren't sure exactly how those were going to land, but it has definitely invigorated the Diana player base. We've seen her play rate go up, her win rate stabilize and go a little bit up as well. Extra added shields, extra added damage. This is always something that's going to feel good on champions who perhaps were held back a little bit with what they could do early game PvP wise and how they scaled PvP wise. And especially when you're an all-in champion that thrives on burst damage and obviously having that survivability. No, I do not recommend you necessarily go the tank build anymore, but the full AP build is the de facto way to go. Really great, balanced champion, much like Nocturne, with a power level 6 and the ability to split push or team fight, something that's pretty crucial in this meta. Much like the Shyvana, they can take away some of your HP, which will compromise your AP build, by the way, and your AD growth can go down a little bit, but who really cares? Because as I said last edition, the Trinity Force Sterex Gauge or your Titanic Hydra with a Stone Plate and tanky items or Wit's End, whatever the hell you want to go, honestly, is so damn potent and strong. WQmax has shown itself to be very, very good. Not only with Trinity Force can you do monster damage to ADCs, you also have monster split push ability with the attack speed steroid that you get up. The raw DPS that Shyvana can dish out is just not expected by a lot of players who are facing her at the moment. Yes, you're not gonna be a level 3 ganking monster, but you will be a level 8, 9, 10, 11 monster when you hit these spikes. Yes, the shortcomings are pretty obvious, but overall the package with the AD focus builds, absolutely huge. The win rate is down again because of the itemization of the AP goers. Stop doing that. It's too difficult, it's weird, it's clunky, she's not a mage. Go Drain Tank, go DPS fighter. Now we have the low elo page where Shyvana rises with her win rates despite this little nerf because people are figuring it out. Hey, maybe we should stop, you know, going AP. That seems to work better for us. Yeah, it really does. You slap in the Nocturne, you got Kayn here, Diana showing up once more for low elo. Lilia, once a high elo only pick, now is a low elo only pick, but not as bad as Warwick, which is, you know, once you're Diamond Plus, just don't even bother. Go top lane with it, it's way better. But this page here is a nice little mix-up. We haven't seen Yi for a while, which is wonderful. Nocturne's just sitting at the top. We've got the Amumu still always will do because of the team fighting component, but we have a lot of nice versatility here. AP tanks, fighters, assassins, different ways to play the game. It's a diverse low elo carry meta, so you should find no issue finding a way to get to gold, get to platinum, and enjoy yourself in the process, while also keeping the champion in your pool. And for the high elo page, I got a little bit cheeky, although not as cheeky as Graves and Lee Sin. Lee Sin's win rate is down, but as we know from my Discord, we have Lee Sin one trick who's absolutely smurfing on Duskblade in high elo at the moment. Kindred always good, Rek'Sai always good, Kha'Zix's always good. Viego is doing very well in high elo, great champion, decently strong, but not very good in general population. Mostly again because new itemization, not optimized properly, but you know, put in the time, look at the data, follow your favorite one tricks, see what they're actually building that works, what are the spikes, and you should definitely find a little bit more success. The Taliyah buffs I absolutely love. I thought they were wonderful, excellent farming tempo increase across the early and the mid game. Her win rate doesn't always represent it, but her setup power is absolutely astronomical. If you have a Rel in your team or something on your team that can guarantee CC, the WE combo is going to make your life absolutely amazing. And finally here, yes, we could put Kayn, and I think maybe we should, but again, the Bel'Veth is showing herself to be quite potent, even in this high elo range. As always, Rengars and all those other champions are always going to be good here. It's all about your ability on your champion. And if you're looking to apply these champions to a certain jungle way that kind of makes you just dominate everything, the most recent video I did on the top right is really the juice.